the idea of walking through a historically layered environment is one of the pleasures of urban space in a way that I think is harder to do perhaps in countryside, and seeing a city that has grown over time with its mess, and then the formalization of mess, then the collapse of its mess. And I suppose those sorts of historical moments seem to me to be a very important part of how one might think about planning. It'd be fascinating. I went to talk about cities in Beijing, and I'm sure lots of you have been to Beijing and know exactly how much of the old city has just been flattered in the name of modernity, so that most of the space is without historical memory. And there's a very, very strange, or without deep historical memory. And there's a very strange politics involved in that, of course, about what the past should count. And then the special places that are collected as almost museum sites and put in aspic, and are no longer actually places you live in, but you just visit to show, oh, that's what that past was like, how weird. And so that separation of modernity from the past, which makes it a very strange experience in comparison to somewhere, I don't know, Paris or Venice, cities that people particularly love, where one of the things they love is that sense of embedded time. And so the idea that you can embed time in a city that gives you a deeper experience turns then into a set of ways in which the second point, which is how do you experience that time? Well, sometimes that can be by just dwelling, just by moving through, walking through the street, meeting people, doing things. Is that frightening? Is it not? Is it a risk? Can we take that risk of living there? And that experience of time in the city is something that some modern city planners try to remove by insisting on the speed of travel through a city, that you must all move at the same pace. So the question might be, can you slow up enough to experience time in a city and actually notice what's happened with these historically loaded places, which are marked not by blue plaques, as it were, but by actual experience and memory. And so for me, it's actually being able to, if you like, to follow through what Chirico seems to suggest, is that you can have that multiple experience of your own timing within a city, which can be created by architecture. That is to say that if you make it difficult to move in certain places, to slow up, to make people meet each other, to make people watch, make people talk to each other, that might not be a bad thing.